1. So before we start, a little backstory. I currently study in my first semester, and so far everything is great, except my commute. I live in a small town, and to get to the campus I have to take the train, which happens to drive through 2 rather large cities until I can get out in the third one. Long story short, I ride the train for about 40 minutes in both directions, and they are used a lot. Now I have to get up early because obviously the train ride takes long, and I also have to take the bus after that, but I digress. My point is, I have to get up early and I do not like it. So whenever I can, i.e. the long-ass train ride, I try to close my eyes a little more. Theft also is not a big issue in my country, but since there are a lot of people on the train, I have developed a technique which allows me not to look out as much for my backpack and jacket while I close my eyes and, in some occasions, even sleep a little more. I have the backpack laying in the seat next to me, the zippers facing my side and lap, and the jacket is in between. As an additional security measure, I put my arm through the straps of the backpack, so no one should be able to rip it from me. This morning I again was taking the train, holding my backpack and jacket so that no one can take it without me noticing, and I'm even more tired than normal because of my first exam coming up on Friday. Wish me luck, please. So I doze off rather quickly. Now, I was in a state that was the closest to actually sleeping I had ever been in public transportation, so there's not much to say except the next thing I remember. My backpack being ripped from me. Because I have my arm in the straps, I obviously get woke up pretty rudely, and I start to panic and pull my arm back to me. Now I'm not that big or strong. But the person trying to get my backpack was, as I would soon find out, even weaker than me. Anyways, as I said, I pulled my arm and my backpack back, and as a result, I sent the person, an elderly female woman, who we shall call Karen, falling face first into the seat. By the way, I wear headphones on the train and my music is pretty loud. That might be important for what follows. I, being kinda pissed that I've been woken up, still decided that I should be a good person and check on Karen, as she might have been injured. The moment I decided to take out my headphones, get my body in a more upright position, and carefully removed my arm from my backpack straps, was the moment I nearly wished she had been injured. Because she started to go off on me. She basically repeated the same stuff, including, "You assaulted me, you're in huge trouble, and I'm going to call the police," over and over again for about 2 minutes. The moment she went silent for the first time, I burst out, "What were you thinking, yanking my backpack away from me? Seriously, what reaction were you expecting?" She just continued with her nonsense in order to gather the other passengers on her side. And it actually seemed to work until the woman sitting diagonally from me chimed in and said, "Seriously, though, why would you try to steal his backpack and then be surprised when he wouldn't give it to you?" She got red and yelled, "Steal his backpack? The audacity! I wanted to get this kid's attention because nothing was working." Now at this point, I want to mention that in the trains there are 3 kinds of seats. 2 sets of 2 seats facing each other, regular sets of 2 seats, and seats that can be folded away to make place for a bike or a wheelchair or something similar. The only really comfortable seats were the ones facing each other, as the other ones had either 0 legroom or could get really cramped. The common etiquette is to first populate the seats facing each other. If in all of them are 2 or more, you go on to the seats that are not facing each other, and if a row is used by 1 or more passengers, you go on to the folding seats. Karen didn't get the memo and wanted to squeeze in the 4 seats, which are already populated by me and the woman I mentioned before. And usually I wouldn't mind, but this is a special situation. 1, she woke me up. 2, there were lots of free seats. 3, we have this thing going around called Corona, which is why you shouldn't sit right next to a stranger if other seats are available. Now the lady seemed to calm down and I could finally start to fill in the blanks. She wanted to sit in the seat my backpack was on, but she couldn't get my attention, instead of looking for another seat or get my attention in a more polite way, like maybe tapping my shoulder, she decided it was a good idea to commit a crime known as attempted robbery, because no judge would care what her motive to pull away my backpack was. She was still ranting, the woman and I still kinda in shock, and public opinion swung further against her. So, in an anticlimactic turn of events, she just decided to exit the train, and that was pretty much it, except I was tired and missed way too much of my lecture. 2. I matched with EP on Tinder when lockdown initially started. We got to talking and she initially seemed very nice. I wasn't planning on going out anytime soon at that time, and I never have met her to date. The conversation went smoothly initially. She dances as a hobby and has a social media channel. I saw her posting a status that she was looking for an artist to make her a brand logo for her channel. And my best friend is a wonderful digital artist, and I asked her if she would like to commission my friend. She said she doesn't have the money to pay, and asked if my friend would be willing to make her one for free. Absolutely not. I am sick and tired of people taking advantage of artists. I tell her it's not fair on anyone to expect services for free, and she argues that she is a beginner and doesn't have the money for it. I tell her she can surely save up money and then get to it. I see her posting statuses and buying expensive stuff, ordering takeout regularly, etc. And she says she can't wait, and it's not like she's trying to use the logo for any malicious intent, just her channel. I tell her artists have bills to pay, they can't just go on giving out free stuff. She says, and I quote, "Don't I?" I shut up after it because that sounded so stupid to me. I didn't even know what to say. A couple days later, she updated another status about how she was shutting down her dance channel because she couldn't find an editor, and I replied to it asking what happened. In hindsight, my bad. She said she can't edit her videos on her own, and it will take her too long to learn, and some of her contacts are supposed to edit her videos for her, but they all ghosted her. I asked if any of these people owed her favors, and without answering, she went on a rant about how nobody is supporting her dreams and how terrible she feels at the lack of empathy in this world, and how it is the right choice for her to shut down her channel. I tell her that I think it is wise for her to take a break, and it's unethical for people to ask others to work for free. She replies saying she thinks it's unethical to give up and she will continue. I'm once again dumbfounded. And I say a simple, "I understand. Good luck." To which she replies, "I would have appreciated a you go girl better, but never mind." I don't reply. This was cue for me to stop talking to her for the longest time. In 2021, the second wave got really bad here, and people like me in their 20s and 30s were super active on social media, connecting people with resources when officials failed to do so, and medical prices were inflated and running out. I saw her pull her weight, and I was impressed. I still did not want to talk to her, though. She sometimes replied on my statuses, but I never felt the need to reply. In July, she sent me a text asking if I would recharge her phone with a monthly data pack. Reason, she had an exam the next day, and her data was running out that night and she really needed it. Now, education is something I really value. My grandparents were immigrants. My grandpa was the first person to even attend minimal schooling. My dad grew up in extreme poverty because grandpa was a person with a stable income in a family of 30 people. And Dad always told me to value education and career over anything. That is something I live by. If I had a mortal enemy and they needed help with education, and if I could help it, I would. I recharged her phone, and she told me she will return it in August. It was not a lot of money, so I wasn't very bothered if she didn't return it immediately. August goes by, she doesn't say anything. Sometimes sends a text or two, and we briefly chat, but no intentions of returning the money. September goes by. I start getting a little worried. I wasn't even sure if I should bring it up in case she genuinely forgot. Anyway, I text her in late August, and she says she has no money and will pay back after the 5th of November. She can show me her bank details if I want. I tell her it's cool, I don't want to see her details. She can return it to me after the 5th of November. Time goes by, she doesn't talk about it. I text her mid-November asking if she can return it. She says if I'm fine if she makes a transfer from her dad's phone. I said I'm fine. She calls me up within 5 minutes, asking if I can come and meet her to take the money in cash. I live at the edge of the city and I live alone, and it's not always possible for me to go out at such short notice. And even though the pandemic was under control, I didn't want to go out unless it was absolutely necessary. And I told her I have plenty of online payment methods. She could choose any of her preference. She said she will let me know soon. She doesn't. I text her in a week asking for an update, no replies. I text her yesterday telling her this has gone on for far too long and I'm okay if she doesn't give me the money back. I am thankfully privileged enough, as of now, for that money to not make a huge difference to me. But what bothered me was her empty promises, and I was giving too much thought to it, and I didn't want to think about it anymore. She blows up, calls me colorful names, tells me how all independent people like me like to assume things, and that I don't know what she's going through or how she is struggling, and that she has never made any empty promises. I tell her that she's been flaking, and really it's fine. I don't want the money, but I wish in future she could just be truthful before asking for a favor. I understand people have hard times, and would have happily paid for her data without asking for anything in return. I just have preferred if she was truthful about it. She grows very sarcastic and passive-aggressive, and says she will give me the money back as soon as it's possible for her. And then she doesn't care what I do or don't do with it. I've pretty much had it at this point, and I tell her, of course, it is my money. Of course I get to decide what I do with it, and she really shouldn't care about it. She absolutely freaks out at this point and asks me where I'm getting my audacity from, and how dare I be so insensitive, and how would I feel if someone said those things to me? I try my best to be truthful about my situation to people, and when I mess up, I take accountability. She tells me how can I ask for my money back, knowing she's struggling. I don't. Her stories are full of blings and how amazing her life is at the moment. And I told her I literally said she doesn't have to return my money. She asks me if I'm pitying her, and I said I'm not. And if she thinks I am, she can just return my money. She goes on to ask who the hell I think I am, and why should she listen to me. I told her I literally am nobody, and there's only two things that can be done here. Either she returns it, or she doesn't, and it looks like she has a problem with both. And honestly, I'm over it and don't care whatever she does. She stops replying and starts uploading very passive-aggressive statuses, calling me more colorful names. And then I start getting calls from unknown numbers, claiming to be her parents wanting to talk. For fuck's sake, we're adults, not children, and we go complain to our parents. Plus, I wanted things on written record, so I told them to text me if they had something to say. They did not ever reach out. I have blocked the number since and have not received any money, but I'm okay. 3. This was back when I was 16 and working in the food service. A few notes before we start is that I worked at a diner. It was not a fast food restaurant, so it took us a little longer to make certain food. Not only this, but on this day, it was very hot in the summer, and our kitchen had no air conditioning, so it was about 110 degrees Fahrenheit in the kitchen that day. So the diner I worked at had bad luck often with noon rushes, especially on weekends, but on this particular day I was not working the register, and instead was working the dining room, which was basically just cleaning up after people so we could seat everyone ASAP. When you have nothing to clean, you're supposed to stand and welcome people, help people find tables, and take any complaints, which is usually not a problem. Enter our entitled mother. I was making my rounds when I was flagged down by this lady, and the following interaction occurs. "Excuse me. We ordered number 2, and we got the hot dog with it, but there aren't any fries." "I'm so sorry. I'll go back and get you some once I confirm the order." "You need to give us a new hot dog too.
I have my children with me, and the hot dog will be cold once you get the fries.
No problem. I'll take your cold hot dog back and get you a fresh order.
No, we're keeping this one too.
Okay, I'll see what I can do. I give her a polite smile and make my exit, a bit floored at the yelling, but she wasn't the first rude person we've had before. I tell my assistant manager what was going on, and he gives me the clear to make a whole new meal once we check her order. And the fries were indeed forgotten by whoever her cashier was. I had to drop a new batch of fries and wait for a new hot dog, but I get back to her as quickly as I can. I'm immediately met with anger, even though it only took about 7 minutes.
Took you fucking long enough. My children are hungry.
I'm sorry, ma'am. I had to make a whole new order for you, so it took a bit long.
I know you were just standing back there and doing nothing, you bitch. Leave us alone.
Now, I don't exactly do well swearing right at me, and I was just a young teen at the time, so I duck into the kitchen to cry a bit while doing some of the dishes. Fun stuff. I think that's the end of it.
I was wrong.
Later on, I'm called to work as a cashier instead of dining room and dishes because one of the cashiers went home feeling sick from the heat, which is understandable. What I didn't expect was this entitled woman coming up to the front and demanding to see my manager, who comes running. I can't really remember what she said, but she vented for a long time about how unprofessional we were, and that she understood while working in the food service, but she was never as awful as we'd been to her, and she had children. She also swore up and down and called me a bitch several times, but I'm sure you get the idea. She then demands that we give her 10 cookies and 5 brownies, which are made from scratch by the house. That would have been about a $20 order, which is about what I made after 3 hours of work. Not only this, but she insisted their next meal be free. My assistant manager was frozen in place, so I say, "I'm sorry, ma'am, we won't be doing that." And she aggressively grabs my wrist, saying I should.
Shut up! You're not a manager!
To which I rip my hand away. I quiet down. But even the assistant manager refused. Still, that wasn't enough. She wanted the owner. Luckily, she was in that day, and of course, she still gets turned down, and finally stomps off. My AM, however, wasn't doing too hot, and he ended up throwing up and going home. The entitled mom and her family leave at about the same time as him, and I was put back on dining room duty because the AM informed us that he'd missed the toilet while throwing up. I didn't fuss too bad about cleaning it up, since I've dealt with that sort of thing before. And it wasn't his fault. But even that wasn't the end of it. When I got back out to the dining room, I find that table that the entitled mother and her family were sitting at. They dumped what was left of their drinks and food on the table, booths, and floor underneath. It was clearly very intentional. No one makes that much of a mess on accident. Long story short, don't be an asshole to food service workers just because of a stupid mistake. There isn't really a happy ending here, besides the fact that I no longer work there. Woo! But it still pisses me off to think about. 4. I will just tell you now that I am a man who crochets. I learned from my mom while I was laid up for almost a year when I broke my leg when I was younger. Anyways, my mom would always crochet a baby blanket for family or real close friends when she found out that they were expecting. I picked up the tradition when she passed. When I found out my cousin's oldest daughter was going to have a baby girl, I thought about making her a gift of the blanket. But before I got started on it, I checked with my cousin to see if she wanted to go with me to pick out the colors for the yarn. She was excited about the idea. She met me at the store, and we picked out 5 colors that we thought Mom-to-be would be happy with. My cousin gave me $60 for the yarn, and $150 for my time. I went home and started working on it. I knew that with so many different colors that it was going to be a very interesting blanket, but I made it work. She must have found out about the blanket because I was 1/16 finished and really just started when Mother-to-be called me.
So I hear you're making me a baby blanket? I hope you were not expecting me or baby daddy to pay for it. When's it going to be done? Better be before she comes. I am not taking her home from the hospital without wrapping her up in a blanket that I worked so hard to make.
Well, all right, taken back by what she said. Yes, I am making you a blanket for the baby. Your mom has already paid me for it. I will have it ready in a couple weeks. I was not even going to address the fact that she said she made the blanket. I figured pregnancy was hard enough. At least give her something to brag about. I always stitch my maker's mark into the pattern to stop people from trying to take credit for my work. She was happy with what I told her, and she hung up. But she kept pestering me 5 to 6 times a day, wanting to know when it was going to be done. Finally, I finished a blanket 2 days before the baby was born. Now all I had to do was wash and wrap it to present it nicely to mother-to-be. Throughout the whole process, I kept Cousin updated on the process of the project. She was very happy, and she told me that she loved the blanket and how it turned out. She was the one who let it slip to the mother-to-be that I was crocheting a blanket for the baby. I go to see the mother-to-be and the baby daddy to present them with the blanket and a few other gifts that I got for them. Baby daddy was happy and grateful for all the work and time that I had put into the gifts. Mother-to-be, on the other hand, was not.
You were supposed to have it done in time for the baby shower last week. I don't want it now, and I do not want my baby wrapped in those colors. My baby is not going to be cut dead with pink, purple, or white. You need to take it back and remake it right this time. And it better be done by the time she comes. Or don't even bother to make a blanket. I should have whatever I want for my baby. You will not be paid for that piece of shit. Now go make my baby a different one.
And lost it.
Have you lost your flipping mind, girl?
It took me over 5 months to make that one. I would have had it done sooner if you hadn't been calling me 6 times a day for months. Your mama paid for this blanket for the grandbaby. You should at least be thankful that she cares about the baby. I don't care if you like it or not. If you don't want this blanket, then you get nothing at all. I told baby daddy that I prayed he has a better daughter than baby mama. He laughed, and I left. I called cousin and told her what the mother-to-be said. She told me to sell it to someone else, and if mother-to-be was going to act like a spoiled brat, then she was getting nothing at all. Sorry, I don't have any pictures of the blanket. The phone that it was on has long since been retired to the phone cemetery. I did ask mother-to-be a couple years before what color she would like if she ever had a baby, and she said whatever I have available. I did not want to charge cousin for the work, but she insisted since I was unemployed at the time. I gave the blanket to the Pregnancy Resource Center. Offers to help expecting mothers who can't afford items for their babies. 5. I worked as a tennis court attendant for 7 years as a summer job. So I got a lot of stories like these, but this one is one of the ones that sticks out to me. My job was to stay in front of the courts during the busy hours and check for memberships to grant access to the court. What often got me and my fellow attendants into conflict is that, some stupid reason, the town placed us at public courts. I live in a relatively rich area in my state, so as you can probably tell, there's bound to be a lot of entitlement. Okay, now onto the story. It was a night shift at the park that I hated working at, because that's where the worst of the entitled showed up. 2 boys, one was a year younger than me, I was going into my senior year of high school at the time, who we'll call Dick, and one who was maybe in his early 20s, who we'll call Jack, walk up to the courts. I ask Dick and Jack for their IDs, and they blatantly ignore me and walk right on. I follow them to try to tell them they cannot go to the court without the ID. Still smug and ignoring me, I reiterate to Dick and Jack one more time, and then they finally acknowledge my existence and say, "Oh, it's fine for us to play. We're state-renowned players and belong to 7 different country clubs," and blah blah blah. I keep my professionalism and told them that it doesn't matter, and that these are the rules that are implemented by the town. And Dick and Jack straight up say they don't care. At this point, their arrogance and entitlement was really getting under my skin, as they talked to me like they were kings of the world, and I was a peasant. It's then that a kind gentleman who we'll call Tom, who knew the rules and respected them, jumped to my aid. He started talking to these kids, telling them that these are the rules, and they need to abide by them and get off the court. But they still refused. Now Tom either had a shorter fuse than me, or Dick and Jack's entitlement and arrogance level raised tenfold. But soon it turned into a screaming match. Tom scolding the boys, and Dick and Jack sitting there smug and not even fazed as he goes off on them. Soon Tom's tennis buddy, David, comes over and tried to calm Tom down. So here's the thing. This job sometimes gets bad enough that the police need to be called. One of my co-workers was physically assaulted later that week just for enforcing the rules. She quit right after. So Tom called them once David calmed down a bit. Jack and Dick reluctantly got off the court at that point, but started harassing me until the cops came. Here's the thing. Once my shift ends, no one else shows up, so at that point I say to people, if you want to come after my shift, I'm off the clock, so there's nothing me or anyone else can do to stop you from going on. My shift ended at 9:15 p.m., so I told this to Dick and Jack, and once again the entitlement kicks in, and while they harass me, they say that they're going on at 9. I told them, no, you gotta wait until my shift is over. They continue to tell me otherwise as if they own the place. That is, until the cops come. Tom and I filled in the cops about the situation. I told them Jack and Dick's options, which the cops then told Jack and Dick to abide by the rules and not go on until 9:15. They, having no other choice, agreed. They, however, spent the last hour of my shift rallying a tennis ball in front of the court entrance right in front of me, and were harassing and shit-talking me right in front of me. Finally, after an hour of harassment, 9:15 rolls by, and in the most arrogant, smug, entitled voice, Jack and Dick ask if they can go on the court. Absolutely exhausted and defeated, I quietly say yes. But before they do, my co-worker who knew of the situation came over to Jack and Dick, confronted them, which they deal with the same level of entitlement to them, and it turns into another screaming match with my co-worker scolding them. Still Dick and Jack unfazed. So here's how bad this situation of entitlement was. My co-worker said to me straight up that she's lucky I was working that night, because if she was, then she'd be in jail for attempting to take one of Dick and Jack's tennis rackets and shoving it up their ass. How I did this job for 7 years is beyond me. All I know is I want to get the hell out of this town. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Idiots in the Wild, episode 40. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. If you enjoyed the video, then please do like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. If you're already subscribed, then don't attempt to subscribe again. That will have unintended consequences. Alright, I got a letter today, quite a cheeky letter as far as I'm concerned, actually, about my P.O. box. Now, apparently, you need to collect it once a month. May have been mentioned before, but it slipped my mind. And, health reasons. And I was thinking, okay, I'll try and get down before Christmas anyway, so I was thinking about going down soon. Anyway, I'm not planning to go out today when I check the mail, because by the time I get to the mail, it's always late. So I check the mail, and this letter is saying, oh, you haven't checked it, and if you don't check it once a month, we might throw the stuff out. We might inform you of it. We might not. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. Maybe stuff's gonna happen over here. You know what I'm saying? You don't gotta ask no questions. So anyway, so this thing I'm paying for, as far as I'm concerned, you can keep the packages for 6 months, or up to 6 months, if I'm paying for 6 months. And seemingly if I don't check it, over a total of 3 months, even though I've took a 6 month out, they'll shut it down. The absolute entitled bullshit of that. I've got a lot of problems with the Royal Mail, which is why right now I'm using it for, in addition to using it for the channel, I'm just using it to order things for myself that I wouldn't usually order because I know they'll be delivered by Royal Mail. And I've frequently got to go down and pick my packages up from them anyway, because they don't leave your packages. They don't leave it in a secure place. They don't give you an option of doing that. And sometimes it will go through the letterbox, and they don't really try to put it through if they don't think it will. They don't even test it to see. So I had to go down today and check it. And I did, and I think they might have lost at least one of my packages, because everything that I'd ordered books-wise was there, except 3 books were ordered from the same place, so it should have been a single package. And if you're wondering what they were, it was Absolute Pandemonium. It was Brian Blessed's first autobiography. I did order the second one, The Panther in My Kitchen, from a different seller, and that arrived. Ordered all at the same time. And there were Stephen Fry's first and third autobiographies. I already bought the second one, because I've got the audiobooks for the 3 of them. I just liked the second one the most, so I bought that one first. And I was buying these other 2 to complete the collection. So that wasn't there. But the thing is, when I went down to pick it up, the lady brought my packages over, and I looked and I thought, you sure that's them all? Because I thought, there should be a couple more there, I'm thinking. And then she went, I'll go check. Oh yeah, there's another one. So she brought another one over, which makes me think there was probably another one down there they've lost somehow. So hopefully when I go down I'll go down maybe January, or if there's definitely things waiting, I might go down just before Christmas. See what mood I'm in, how I'm feeling. Hopefully it's there then. Okay, that's enough grumbling from me. I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourself.